Evening, everyone. Welcome to Southern Ghost Society Live. Hello to new viewers, and hello to people that know us and part with us on a weekly basis when we're allowed out to do events. It seems like an age ago now where we've been allowed out to play and investigate. So we're going to do these shows as regular as we can. Relevant as we can to try and keep it fresh in our minds. We're looking forward to get back. We're busy plotting and planning June onwards to see where we're going to be going to. Busy chat, definitely fingers crossed. But busy chatting to venues, just sort of seeing when we can get back out there safely and securely. But also seeing if we can get out there and really. It's been a long time. Our last event was.
June.
Oh no, just after
June.
Yeah, our last proper event was probably June last year, and then we did one that we couldn't cancel. We went to the prison, didn't we? In Portsmouth, we did that in October, and then we knocked it on the head then because we just didn't really find a secure way to keep you guys safe and to keep everyone investigating. It's hard to do a Ouija board or dowsing rods, 6 meters apart. 2 meters apart. 6 meters? I think that's the rule. Rule of 6 or 2 meters. Yeah, 2 meters apart. So yes, we're definitely starting to plot and plan now. But in the meantime, we're going to bring to you these live productions, these live shows. We're trialing out new formats, so bear with us in terms of any shakiness or sound. We are working on that in the background. We're trying to find the most secure way and the best way to bring this to you. So yeah, bear with us on that. So welcome along to tonight's show. On tonight's show, you've got myself, Dan, and you've got Andy, and you've got Mary as well this evening. Mary's there in the background. Yeah, a little squeaky voice there. Hi, Mary. Tonight we're going to chat to you about EMF. And I think it's going to be a bit of a sort of common theme to our shows moving forward. What we want to try and do is sort of spark a conversation about EMF, about what it is, how we measure it, and just general things about how we work with EMF and the different we take to identify. Then also a follow-up show, hopefully within the same week, where we'll bring to you the evidence of EMF for you guys to review, to sort of give us your view on it. We've done some really good shows in the past of EVPs where we've heard certain things and you guys have completely nailed it. Able to actually listen to it back and you think it says this, and they've been really relevant because we've changed our mind. So we also go as well is for you guys until we're going to do the next show on Saturday evening, all being well and the platform being well and so on, and we're going to bring to you our evidence of EMF for you to review and so on. But what we'd like from yourself, if possible, is to us. So if you've got experience with EMF, if you've caught EMF or you caught it's an EMF disturbance or you paranormal EMF, then send it to us, or in turn bring your experience to show. Comment below. We are going to be monitoring the questions on YouTube and on Facebook. So yeah, give us your experiences. Really, we'd love to hear them. It may be something that we've experienced ourselves, or we've been to somewhere where we may have just too regular or too natural, and you may have or whatever. So it'd be good for you to feedback to us, and then we'll bring your evidence to show. But yeah, it's as much to show about you as it is us. So we'd be really interested to see what you guys have caught out there as well. So on with it, shall we?
Yeah.
So EMF.
We got some really interesting stuff back from last year, didn't we? With people submitting their own bits of footage. So that was pretty useful as well.
Yeah, 100%. And it's really good to see because we go out and we go to places and we capture stuff, and we love what we capture. But if someone else out there has caught the same thing or the same thing, that's even more compelling for us, because what we're saying is we've caught it, we've recorded it in the way we know, but also someone else on a completely different night that didn't know we caught it has shared it as well. So anything you've got like that, then let us know. It'd be really good to sort of feed back into you and sort of share our joint experiences, really. So EMF. And I think that it's one of those acronyms that we use on investigations all the time, and we can sort of maybe fall foul of not explaining it totally if you're newer to the industry, or if you come along to one of our events, it's measures EMF, and this does EMF, and this will pick up this EMF, and this will pick up this type of EMF. But getting down to the, not to sort of sit here for 1 hour and teach you to suck eggs, or more layman terms, and actually bring EMF into relatable terms. So I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to pass you over to Andy, and Andy's going to do EMF description of the equipment we use.
Okay, so I didn't want to start lecturing, as Dan said, but I thought it's quite interesting when you look at EMF, how it actually relates to the things you see in the field, because there's an awful lot of devices that people use, and it's hard to stand apart. It's hard to work out what you'd use one device for, what you use for the other. And I think to understand that, you've got to look a bit more into the spectrum of EMF, as in what EMF is and how it changes as the frequency of it changes. So I found a very useful diagram, which I've then cribbed and made a bit more ghost huntery by sticking some things which you should be. Electromagnetism travels, and the frequency of that travel is the frequency of the EMF. So if you can hear me and see this graph at the same time, then what you can see here is the frequency of EMF. So very low frequency are things like earthquakes and earth tremors and things which kind of low down, like so submarines, for example, use very low frequency because the waves are so long that they can send that signal a long way without it being interfered with. And as the energy increases, as the frequency increases for electromagnetic energy, it changes form, it changes the way it's perceived in the world. So we move through those low frequencies that are used by in power supplies through to what's coming through your mobile, what's in the microwave oven. Eventually it becomes visible. So initially starts off at infrared. So infrared is the lowest frequency of visible light into the light you see on a daily basis, then back out through the ultraviolets until we hit X-rays. And what you can see in the graphic is a lot of the very most common paranormal equipment for looking at EMF. And the first one you see there on the left hand side, that's a Mel meter, and surprisingly that's a very low frequency of device. It operates at a frequency much lower than anything else, so it's about 30 Hertz to 300 Hertz, so very low frequency. Then your K2, unusually, has got quite a broad band, so it goes between 30 and 300. The Gauss meter is fixed at 50 to 60, so that is actually exactly the frequencies that you see in mains power. So I think Gauss meters are basically there to test for mains voltage. And then you have the trivium meters, which are much, much higher, into ranges of microwaves, in fact. Beyond that, then you can see actually to measure EMF when it gets past 300 gigahertz, you're looking at cameras. You need cameras to be able to see that EMF, and beyond that, you'll need a Geiger counter. So when people are saying what device do you want to use to measure EMF, it's more a case of what area of this field, what frequency are you looking at. And in reality, you see there's not huge amounts of crossover between these devices. So that's why sometimes the K2 can be going off, but the Mel meter is saying 0, because the frequency of the thing it's picking up isn't in the range of that particular device. Now, I think I might switch over before it breaks. And hopefully everyone can hear everyone. But
yeah, I think so. I think we're all back on. So I mean, like I say, I think that the most common one that people see is the K2. K2 was something that we, as soon as we started investigating, didn't we? We jumped on and bought them, and that was down to taps, wasn't it? I think was it taps?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're ghost station now, but they were.
They used to stick like money in their K2 meters, didn't they? Because the button didn't used to click.
Yeah. So that was the first one we bought, and I was sort of found it fascinating, really, because I think that on those pieces of equipment, especially like the K2, people just, set them down. I think that we never watched the program, but they were using them as almost a modern day Ouija board, weren't they? Like 2 flicks for yes, 1 flick for no. Can you move to red? Like really a communication tool. And K2 is probably one of the most common ones on there. But I suppose the Mel meter is getting a lot more. The Mel meter is getting a lot more common. I think with the Mel meter, they've now evolved, haven't they, to have an element of temperature on there, then the REM pod on there. So actually, you've got one piece of kit that sort of tries to measure a lot more stuff, really. But I suppose the K2 is the main one that.
That's what everyone recognises, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably with most of our experiences on generally the K2. But yeah, I mean, you'll probably recognise some equipment, but it'd be really interesting to hear, is there other ways that you measure it? I know that we look at all manner of ways. We try to sort of stay away from this being a general equipment show, because that's a show in itself, I think. And, you know, we can sort of go into this and then measure different types. I mean, I know that we talked about REM pods, didn't we? We talked about and how people use a REM pod like a K2, and how people describe a REM pod as a K2, but actually they're completely different things. So we're going to park that equipment talk probably there. We're going to share some experiences about pieces of equipment we use and some of our best experiences as well. But I certainly think that, and also I think it depends on the venue. So we can go into somewhere like Fort Widley, or somewhere like one of the tunnels where there's no electricity, or we're outside where there's no natural EMF, and use all manner of equipment. Where if we go to one of the buildings, where one of the modern buildings, or a building that's been modernised, the building that's been modernised, really mindful. And I think TAPS taught us that as well, didn't they? That we wouldn't now go into a general, if we were investigating a house, or we were investigating an office block, or just something that's been modernised, we wouldn't then go in, sit down, chuck the K2s down, and then just sort of fire off all these readings. We would then do things what we call a sweep. So we'd go into a room and we would know, hopefully from previous experiences, or certainly from doing the sweep, the team know now. We go into a room and we'll sweep that room to see if there's any natural causes of EMF, or if there's anything in that room mains power. You know, there's nothing you want, nothing worse than sitting there 20 minutes and think, you know, you're having this, and, you know, the questions you're asking actually are almost coinciding with the K2 rather than the K2 responding to your questions, and then finding out you're chatting to a computer screen, or you're chatting to a piece of equipment that's still plugged in that's generating an EMF. So we tend to go into a room, we do a general sweep, and then sort of mark it out. So when the next team come in, when we go on our breaks, we'll talk about it and we'll say, listen, be careful in that room, because the centre, I think one of the venues, one of our it's not a secret anymore. It's the worst kept secret ever. But one of our private locations we do, it's sort of modernised into classrooms at the moment, and above us are sort of projectors and stuff. So you need to be mindful of everything around you, within the floor, within the sort of 6 foot radius really, but also be mindful of things above, wires, and so on. And that's why sometimes going into a castle, going to somewhere where there's zero electricity, there's zero natural EMF, then they sort of lend itself better really. So I thought I'd ask some questions to stop me talking for the next hour. I thought I'd ask sort of general questions. So I touched then on paranormal EMF and natural EMF, and we talked about, well, you talked about, Andy, on the graph, things that create EMF. Anyone got an experience of anyone, in terms of anyone at home, but anyone on here now, experiences where we've come across natural EMF, and it's maybe taken us a bit of time to find it, but actually with natural EMF and what caused it?
Yeah, I've got one. When we were at the Ram Inn, and Andy, jump in here if I don't recall all of it, but when we went to the Ram Inn, we decided to do an experiment, because we know that the building has a lot of ley lines going into them. So what we wanted to do was effectively sort of try and map out the ley lines, but also do an experiment with rods and the connection of how rods move, and linking it in with the EMF. So the experiment done was that Andy has a piece of equipment where he can effectively listen to EMF. He could probably describe it better than I can, but do you want?
Yeah, it's basically a guitar pickup that you connect to an amplifier, and then you can listen to it. So guitar pickups are there to pick up the EMF as the strings vibrate, and you can use that to literally hear the frequency of EMF as well as the amplitude, how strong it is, and the frequency of it. So I was standing in the Garden of Mary and I was waving my box around and trying to hear these patches, because there was weird little patches of EMF kind of floating and moving around the back garden as soon as I'm in.
Yeah, so when Andy was, wandering around with his box, I was wandering around with some dowsing. No, it didn't. But basically, he when he heard a spike, he would tell me to stop.
Yeah, and I'd wave it that sort of direction. So I'd hear where it is, but I would try not to give any visual clue to Mary at where I'd heard it. I think that's important.
Yeah. So then when he asked me to stop, that was when my rods crossed. And 9 times out of 10, when Andy got a spike, the rods would cross. So it was really interesting just to see the correlation between EMF and the rods crossing. We'd love to go back and try a little bit more on it. I know you guys, when you've been at the ramming, had experiences with probably REM pods and K2 equipment going off there as well. So I think there's some natural EMF. Also, I think you've had experiences with REM pods there as well.
Yeah, I think the ramming's an interesting one actually, because if anyone's ever been up into the ram-in and been up into the attic, we were getting quite high K2 spikes, especially sort of around mid-range, and there was nothing in the room. There was no lights above us. I think it was a lamp or whatever, but there was no lights above us. But we were getting quite high red, and it was too constant to be. But if you were down mid-range, because you're holding the K2 out or you're using it, you were sort of catching glimpses of it. And then if you ever go out into the car park of the ram and look up, because there's a pylon one side of the ram, and then the back end of the car park there's another pylon, and there's a wire that runs, so it's an electrical, and actually in the middle it dips and it runs along the roof, the sort of the peak of the roof.
Kind of going across the entire top of the roof, pretty much, isn't it?
So you're picking up. So when you're sort of sitting there, you're sitting on the beds are quite low down. You're sort of saying, if there's anyone here, whatever, raise it up. Then raise it up. You're getting your responses. So you need to be careful of natural.
You've just got to check your surroundings, haven't you? And
yeah, you have. Yeah, tell about your story about natural EMF.
So that was REM pod.
Yeah, but it's still it's a form of
It was the first time we ever used it. It was a new piece of equipment to us. So excited to use it, and went to Tutbury Castle, and I was with one of our team leaders, Mark. We were outside. Our area was there was a dungeon there and stuff like that, and there's some ruins to an old chapel, I think, or a church or some kind. So we thought we'll put out there. And we're go and wait in the dungeons. We're in there cooling out, trying to get anything to interact with us. Coming out there, explaining it, see if anything can come near it, touch it, set it off. All of a sudden, a little spike. We're both looking at each other, really excited. And then suddenly it goes crazy. And so we run out there thinking, yes, this is it. We've got something here. And then when we got to the piece of equipment, there was a slug. So the higher it went. And it wasn't a dead slug. It was,
it was
paranormal.
Yeah, it wasn't paranormal. No, we didn't.
Slug.
We didn't contact a slug.
Slug just disappears and just salt on the aerial.
The natural EMF can be. Natural EMF can be. It can really sway you as well. I mean, I know that we were chatting about offline, but again, a word that's used within the paranormal world, like the fear cage effect, where you're in a confined area where there's loads of EMF, and in a confined space with high EMF, it can, for those that are more sensitive or for those that spend more time in that area, you can feel uneasy, you can get paranoia, anxiety, nausea. And in some cases, like uncontrollable fear. And so I know we've referred to it in the paranormal world as a fear cage, but I think that the people, I mean, if you go into a pub, how many times do you hear we've never gone into a pub, obviously, but for people that do free places. Yeah, sorry, someone just commented slugs have souls too. That's genius. Yeah,
Great comment.
But I suppose our point was that we love all sorts of animals, but this one was still alive, so rather than didn't have a soul. But yeah, how many stories you hear? Our staff won't go down in the cellar. Down in the cellar, it doesn't feel very comfortable. But actually, if you go down into the cellar, and we've had a couple of experiences. Well, I won't name the names, but one of the pubs, I was sort of saying it's probably one of the best one of the worst investigations we did, but actually one where I felt really uncomfortable. And just as you go over the threshold of the cellar, it was going downstairs, I sort of sat on the stairs, and I'm thinking to myself, obviously I'm quite brave, but I was thinking to myself, I actually don't want to go down there on my own. And I think it was one where I was going to try and go down on my own. But actually, when I sort of took stock and the equipment was going crazy, to my right hand side there was the light switches for all behind the bar, so the lights above the bar, below the bar, the lights of the cellar, and literally it sort of created this high EMF, and that sort of lends itself to that sort of fear cage effect, really. So I wonder how much a natural EMF can throw you off, and I think that's why doing a sweep or doing a sweep or going around really can enhance your experience on an investigation, because you sort of get to understand the building and you get to understand the natural occurrences that are around you, and you eliminate those, and then you can almost have a bit of a better investigation. But interesting your thoughts at home. Slugs on the microphone. Yeah, that's Andy's comment. There was another comment. Hey,
Great film.
my
Snakes on a Plane.
so yeah, slugs.
Sally made a comment a little while ago about natural fields. So that everything has got a natural magnetic field, and luckily most of it is too small to affect anything other than the most sensitive equipment. Which is true. I think that's what we kind of covered earlier, was that different bits of equipment have very, very specific frequencies they work in, and most need quite a bit of juice to actually detect something. I mean, except for the K2. K2's got quite a lot of layers of amplification, so strange enough, it's one of the cheaper devices, but it can pick up quite a lot.
I think when you sort of Google K2s are there's probably a 60-40 divide on 60% of people love them, and there are 40% of people out there that are just say too unreliable. It's not good. But we tend to use the last time I used the K2 as a standalone piece of equipment, we normally got it alongside something. So if we're picking up a reading, we're actually then mirroring that on something else. I mean, maybe not on another K2, but you're probably using multiple pieces of equipment to try and sort of rule out either that inconsistency or actually that's some sort of natural occurrence. That's something happened that we've just caught it.
I think they work, for me anyway, to leave it in an area. So nothing there at all, EMF wise, you've done a sweep and everything. And to leave it there and to call out and to ask, rather than carrying, you can get the odd spike then maybe.
Definitely. So Andy, you mentioned something. I'm going to not sort of pick you. You mentioned earlier in reference to picking up EMF in other forms. Really interested to hear about your experience. I mean, you experience EMF in a soundboard. You say you've got evidence of EMF in another form, which you've sort of been not blown away by, but sort of taken aback by.
Yeah. So I mentioned actually before that you take that guitar pickup and listen for EMF, which is exactly the same thing people do when they're playing the guitar. You can use that to debunk quite a lot, primarily. So when someone says, I've had some K2 hits, you can take a device and you walk around and see if you can find the source of it. But when you can listen for it, you can hear the finer tone of it. You can hear sometimes what sort of EMF it is. So you can hear that of mobiles, or you can hear that something that sounds like a modem when it's data cables, etc. So you can use EMF as a waveform. You've got something just to change that wave of energy into a wave of audio. But on very rare occasions, I've used that listening to the EMF in actually investigating a place. So there's an old monastery/church called Blackfriars Priory in right in the centre of Gloucester. And while we were there, we were investigating the chapel part of it, which was actually like a small church, but completely stone, medieval, not much in the way of electricity, which wasn't sort of bolted to the walls at the side of the building, but everything was kind of off. But people were getting odd little kind of K2 hits in there, so I thought this should be quite easy to do because it's a stone building, it's bound to be something like a safety light. And at the time, because I was experimenting with this changing EMF into sound waves, I took 4 guitar pickups and a piece of 2x2 wood, and then put them on in each side of the 2x2 wood because waves can go in any direction, and then attached the earphones to it, and then walked around that church, waving the bit of wood around, trying to see if I can find where the audio is coming from. And the odd thing was, well, considering one person came and got me, and then didn't really tell the rest of the people who were sitting in a circle doing a vigil, then I walk around with a piece of wood behind them like this.
Some sort of satanic ritual.
And the thing is, that bit of wood with the pickups in the end looks like a mace as well. So I didn't use it that often because it's kind of threatening, and you have to walk around Gloucester holding it. But yeah, I started hearing this kind of this hum, and it wasn't quite sharp like you get some just like mains voltage. It was definitely kind of a frequency, a modulation almost to it. It was kind of tonal, and I was like, okay, that's quite interesting. And then it just disappeared. And that's a shame. But as I was moving away, I heard it again. And what I found was by waving my bit of wood around in the church, the EMF ball was about this big. And I've never heard of any ball before, but it was basically a ball of energy that was about the size of a football, and it was sort of drifting around inside the church. So I was just following it literally around in the church until it kind of dissipated, and I missed it again. But it's interesting that I picked that up after people had used other bits of equipment to see something was happening, and then used EMF as a form of sound to actually then try to get the shape of it, because that's very hard to do with just some LEDs that are beeping. So it's definitely something that's worthwhile looking into if it's possible, and you've got a old guitar you don't mind pulling apart.
And the thing is, we've used you when we've been in, yeah, don't want to say that live now. We've been using, but we've used you on investigations where we've done a sweep and we've not picked up any EMF, and then we've been doing a board or we're doing something, and suddenly we're getting a spike on a piece of equipment, an EMF spike. So there's been times where I've sort of broken groups and wandered off and come and got you and said, Andy, could you we're picking up this EMF, I'd like your opinion on it, see if there's anything you can hear. And you brought the machine in, and you've almost done a bit of sweep around. We've either been able to debunk it by saying, actually, do you know what, we've used a piece of equipment, I can hear the EMF and it's taken to the floor, so then we rule it out. There are certain times where you've come back and gone, no, there's nothing, I can hear it, but I'm hearing it as well as the K2's picking up, but I'm not finding a source. So yeah. I think if anyone does, we're joking aside about breaking the guitar, but if anyone's got the facility or are interested in that sort of facility, then we can talk through that on another show or whatever. But it's definitely a real good way to either debunk or cement some really back up that actually we caught some EMF and we didn't find a source for it. So yeah, I think it's a really good way of doing it, and certain ways that I suppose not a lot of people out there will be doing, because people look at EMF and jump to a K2 or jump to a piece of equipment, so that's really cool.
There was one prison as well, which we did, and right at the start of the night they said nothing's turned on. There's no electric down there, none at all, but people were getting K2s on one of the cell blocks, and when I went to the various pipings on the wall, you could just about hear it, and occasionally you'd get a big vroom, like a huge amount of it. So it's something like an alarm system or something, which I don't think the people who said everything's switched off really kind of thought that might actually set things off, because of this alarm signal that goes every 2 minutes or so.
Yeah, definitely, because this something switched off, because the mains switched off, then it's just being able to rule that out, or certainly just look a bit deeper into it, and just like I said, there's nothing worse than getting so excited about capturing something or hearing something. We've done it before when we've looked at EVPs, and when we've done, I think in recording we talked about before, where you've walked across the room upstairs, and by the time I've heard footsteps and recorded it down, by the time I've got up there, I've been sort of roots in awe and scared and excited, and then yeah, you can hear a sound. And then by the time that I've come up there, you've gone, and then we've heard these footsteps, and then by the time we've gone back and we've investigated, we've realised it's you. Right? Did anyone hear that sort of oboe sound just a moment ago? It was really off.
No, weird about
it. It was like it was like doo doo, like really low sounds.
I didn't know Mary had band practice.
I didn't hear that.
Sorry.
Did you hear that, Mary?
No.
Did you hear it? Yeah.
All right.
Might have been a motorbike going past.
Yeah, it might have been a motorbike. Yeah. We've either got no sound or weird sounds. So yeah, we're right the way across the spectrum this evening. But so that's cool. Yeah. So like I say, I think it's worth looking at EMF in different lights. I'm hoping people, I would think about it in a bit of a different way, or think actually, I'm going to give that a try really. And like I say, that different pieces of equipment that we use, but there's always advice that we can give about what we use and how we do it if anyone is interested out there as well. So then the biggest burning question we always get asked then, best experience. I know, Mary, you sort of touched on yours, didn't you, in terms of your best experience, but best experiences that I'm not going to say that's a K2, but
I've got another one similar to sort of Andy's experience in terms of that we had moving EMF, and it's the jury's out on it. We're still sort of investigating. Again, it's at our private location, but it's in an area that is reported to have lots of paranormal experiences, and it is above the third room, and we know that, and we were prepared for that. We've done a sweep, but what we were finding when we were doing the sweep was that we had really hot EMF, but it was moving down the corridor, and it's an L-shaped corridor, but it was moving down one part of the corridor, around the corner, and down the rest of the corridor. Really strange sort of concept, because you expect, even though Andy sort of said it's waveforms, so you naturally expect that. But I wasn't waving the wooden sticks like Andy, but we were with the K2s, and while we were falling out, one of the ladies with us, she sort of said she got tapped on the shoulder, and there's no way that she could physically be tapped on the shoulder because she was standing in front of the cabinet. So there was nobody behind her. She was standing in front of the cabinet, but she felt a firm tap on her shoulder. Now obviously that's sort of personal experience, so we carried on with the night. But while we were testing this moving EMF, I was actually calling out myself and sort of said that, if you're there and you're trying to reach out to us, I promise I won't be scared, I won't jump. I always guarantee that, but tap me on the shoulder, do the same again. We didn't get any direct response at that time, so we carried on calling out again, and then sort of all of a sudden I felt a tap shoulder. I thought it was one of the guys trying to get my attention, but then I realised I was standing in the same place where the previous lady was standing, and there was no way physically anyone could have touched my shoulder. So it was quite a compelling experience, but also interesting in the fact that we know that it was an EMF area, so the EMF that was there wasn't reacting in the way that we would have expected it. So it was, I can't wait to go back and sort of explore that a bit more.
Cool. That's nice to sort of an experience of EMF and then sort of feeling as well, or sort of touch as well. So that's quite cool. So anyway, really, and we've had lots of experience in that area. I think it's probably similar to our area where you got scratched in you as well.
Yes.
So. What about you then? What about best EMF experience?
A few. The one that stands out, I suppose, for me is back about 8-9 years ago at the King's Theatre.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Portsmouth.
In Southsea, and yeah, I was with team leader Simon. I was with me and Simon went into changing rooms there, and we've already done a sweep of the changing rooms, and there was nothing really significant picking up on the. And we were just sat in there. I think we were having a bit of a break from our group. We just went for a little bit of a walk, but we sat in there, put the K2 down, and just asking general questions, a bit of calling out, and we were getting responses literally perfect to asking a question, you know, on there, that kind of thing. But I can't, like I say, it's so long ago now. But we were literally asking questions, male, female, and we were getting responses. And if we didn't ask a question, we had nothing. And it went on for about half an hour. It was mad. I think Simon always said it was one of his best.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Best sort of evenings investigating with, you know, what we had. That was interesting. Another one for me. If I can add another one.
Yeah, do it.
I don't know if we mentioned a place called Portvillia.
42 minutes it's taken us to mention.
Yeah, blimey.
It's like the 9-0, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, we were there, and there is literally zero power there. No electricity at all. And we were calling out. It was right before we got the EVP, which I'm sure we will bring another time. Don't really talk about it much.
No, we don't. We're shy on that.
We were sat up there, and there was 4 or 5 of us there, and we had the REM pod, mel meters, things like this set around, and they were actually nowhere near us at the time. They were on a staircase. We were over on the other side of this land, and the equipment went off there, and it was all of it going off. It was quite a high spike, and there's nothing natural that could have caused that, I don't think.
No.
For myself, and yeah. So for me, that was, again, with no electricity at all there. Can't explain it.
We had the mail go off as well in the sort of plague bit of the island, didn't we, as well?
Yes.
And then where you and Mark were off, I think me and Mike, we had the REM pod go off, and then I think it was a spike on the mail as well, which is really cool. Again, no natural occurrence for that.
So that's probably it for me.
So mine is quite an unfashionable venue, I think. So mine is the Lamb Inn. Yeah, the Lamb Inn in Thiel, so Reading, and Mike and Mark know it really well, and the guys from Reading know it really, really well. It's an old sort of coaching inn, and it was a strange investigation. But out the back there's accommodation, and this accommodation just has single rooms, bathroom, and me, Lee, and Mark Irwood went on into one of the rooms. And we put the K2 in the bathroom because we were live streaming, so we were thinking that whenever you obviously got the internet and so on, it's picking up, it kicks the K2.
Yeah.
So we put it further enough away that it sat stagnant. And we sat for like an hour and 20-30 minutes talking to someone who actually claimed to be Dick Turpin. Of all the people, what's the story? Like there is in every single coach house up and down the country. This is one of Dick Turpin's haunts and so on. But believe what you want, and again, we've got the sort of live stream video that we've watched over, and we've tried to debunk it. We didn't know anything. We didn't know enough about Dick Turpin to answer these questions. So what we were doing was, and Mary, I think, just gone offline, but she'll be back in a moment. We had the team at home were answering questions. So we were saying, for instance, where were you born? What county did you do this? You know, just generally loads of different questions. Loads of questions that we actually physically know the answer to, and we were getting yeses and nos. We were getting, honestly, for ages, wasn't it? It was mind-blowing in terms of the response, and for such a long period of time. Even so that the team were back in the main building. I think Andy there was what I was sort of watching. We were having, you know, if we, you know, I sound crazy to say that we come into contact with Dick Turpin, right? I'm telling you now, from the responses we had to the questions we were answering, it was either someone. It was too good to be true. That you sound silly saying it, but honestly,
I don't think I mention it. It's not something I talk about.
No,
it just sounds ridiculous.
No, it's really not. For us, we were asking questions about how do you die, where do you die, you know, just loads of random questions.
Where
you know,
you're born.
where you're born, yeah.
Everything was correct, spot on.
It was just fun, and we had people on Wikipedia, we had people at home saying that's right, that's 100% right. You know, even down to can you make the K2 go off when we get close to the year you were born? No, we would never have known that. We're a professional ghost hunting outfit, but there's no with everything to know with Dick Turpin. But honestly, the video is astounding, and you know, I do feel embarrassed talking about it, because whenever you just think, you know, oh yeah, I spoke to Dick Turpin in Reddit, and people are like, yeah, all right, mate, what pub are you in, or whatever, we've been drunk on a night out. But genuinely, it's an experience that I can't explain. You speak to Mark, who was there at the time, the three of us, even Mary, who's on the call now, that was involved from being at home and was helping us answer the questions. To me, I was someone that knew too much about Dick Turpin, because it was set in the K2 as well. And then we sent you in afterwards. That was another time when we sent you in.
Yeah, we swept
that room and the room
we
downstairs.
swept the room below, to the side, outside the building, and there was nothing at all. And it was the K2s were mostly kind of in that bathroom area, weren't they?
Yeah.
So it just there was nothing at all, and there was setting those off. It was
Mary said even down to the horse's name, wasn't it? It was everything. It was absolutely crazy. And honestly, right, again, it's genuinely, it's like we get a lot of stick for what we do, and then the local pub with our friends, and here we go. You know, here comes the ghost hunters. And then when we walk into some pubs, I say our local one, they put on Ghostbusters or that, and it's not a story I'll tell. It's certainly, but it's actually probably one of the best experiences we had with a K2, but also information. So we're actually in the process. It's on an old laptop of ours. We're going to be taking it off and making a video of it, and be really interested to see what you think of it. Honestly, it was fascinating.
One of them bits of evidence we've got that if you watched on a programme, you'd go, rubbish.
100%.
Yeah.
With an encyclopedia, or someone with the idiot's guide to Dick Turpin, and underneath with a radio just setting off. But genuinely, you know, people know us. People know we try and do things right, and we're not claiming to be the be all and end all ghost hunter, but we do try to get there and try and debunk where we can. And that was honestly physically cannot explain.
I forgot about that one. That was
just amazing, really good. I try not to mention Wolverine because we get so much stick for that, but
I like to mention it.
Andy, then, yourself.
Maybe just one last bit on that as well. There are very few occasions when you're actually getting some level of engagement and communication, that you get to the point where you've done a bit about making sure you're talking to someone. You're definitely getting yes/no responses. You ask lots of questions, and then you get to the point where you're going, what do we ask next? What happens next? That was one of those times like we're running out of trivia questions to ask them.
And that's what we were onto the horse's name and stuff like that, because we were just.
It was getting ridiculous.
It was getting to the point where, it was just us. But I think what made it better was we didn't know the information, so I think that was even more. We were not saying, that 1742, that was correct. So I didn't even know the dates now. Generally, don't know the information now.
It almost turned into This Is Your Life rather than Ghost Hunting.
It really did, but honestly, it was fascinating. Like I say, we're going to go over some. We've started to put our YouTube channels really vamped up now with latest videos, but we are going to go back over some of our live streams, aren't we? And really start to pick up and because it's really, really, really cool. But that's certainly a good experience. So Andy, best EMF experience.
So mine, I think, is about that engagement and that communication. So when you get to the stage with any sort of thing you're looking at, temperature or little knocks, or I like it when you get to the point where you think, I am actually making some sort of connection here, and I can start using that. I can start engaging that person, finding out more about them, or finding out more about the field in general. So mine is probably Preston Manor, where we're down in the basement, in the kitchens, where we don't normally get things. Normally we're kind of rushing off into the doggy room, or the attic where the servants' quarters are. So, the China dogs. Yeah. Yes.
We need to think of a better name for that room, I think, in the next show.
Dining room.
Okay. The doggy room. Was it? Anyway, so we've done the kitchen. Normally the kitchen, not much happens. I mean, there was occasion where I saw a shadow kind of pass underneath the doorway and there was no one outside the room. But apart from that, not much at all there. except for one time we're investigating, we had an RF detector on the table and a couple of K2 meters around and a mel meter, and we were asking questions. We started getting quite solid little blips on the K2 meter, just kind of like blip, blip. So then we start just going through the sort of normal questions, because we were talking about the house. We were just saying, this lovely house is very interesting. Can you imagine if we could live here, that sort of thing. And then that was seeming to get an interest. So we start asking some questions, and after a short period of time, we were getting buzzes on our radio frequency detector as well. And using a bit of kind of sort of questioning and trial and error, we were getting the nose with a kind of loud buzz on the RF detector, and the K2 meter was giving nice sort of yeses. It was like beep and buzz. It sounded like a game show pretty much, where it was like right, wrong, right, wrong. So we were having this nice chat. It seemed to kind of get quiet when we were trying to get too much detail. So it was a kind of interaction, talking about the house, talking about who lived there, but not too much dreaming about who we were actually talking to. But as a kind of experience and learning about how you can use it to interact with anything that's in the building, that's quite one that's high on my list as well. Because we've had that in a few places, but that was special. That stuck in the mind. Just because again, we had a frequencies, a K2 and an RF detector are miles apart in EMF, so the amount of energy that needs to be given off to set those off is different. So the no would have had to have been a stronger, more powerful response compared to the K2, which was a lighter, less frequency response. So I kind of learned something from that, and had a nice little chat in the kitchen.
Nice. We when you talk about the room with the dogs in there, we had, again, it just reminded me now with Preston Man, I don't know who I was with, but our team were in the room with the dogs, and outside the door we'd set up a K2 towards where the flats are, so where someone lives, and then we had the REM pod in the middle, and then we had motion at the end, and we were asking, listen, if there's someone there, we sort of heard a bit of creaking on the floor, and all of a sudden we heard the K2 go off, the mel meter went to like sort of orange, and then the motion detectors come off. And when you look at what makes that a good bit of evidence, I think we might have that. We would certainly got that on audio. It was in a line, so it actually went off. So almost like the K2 went off, the REM pod went off, and then the motion. So in fairness, it was someone walking past the room.
And it's three different
pieces of equipment. You've got but I'm not going to go into the equipment too much, but 3 different pieces of equipment really. So I want to go back to Preston Manor.
Yeah, I do.
I keep making menu. I keep on writing down where we're going to go.
And for that.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah. I don't. But Mark Irwood said the same thing. Do you go back to somewhere where you've had such an amazing experience? We're never going to get that.
We'd go back and sit there for hours and get nothing.
I know, that's the thing. And other teams have gone there, and our friends have gone there and not really picked up too much. Although that he did pick up on the kinetic, he picked up a figure laying on the bed, which is really interesting. Yeah, which is really cool. But again, that's another time, another show, really. So in terms of our best experiences, really, I think that what we want to try and do is to have a general discussion about EMF or whatever topic's going to be that night, and then hopefully look at digging out some of our examples and playing them to you on our next show. So we're going to talk about maybe the next show we're going to be doing. We're going to come along maybe. We'll certainly review this back. We'll have a look at the sound and the platform to make sure we're happy enough to bring that show to you. But I reckon we're. Sorry, I'm reading the message. I'm no good. Do you know what? I'm no good at trying to talk and read. I'm multitasking. I'm rubbish at it. Yes. I don't know what to talk about. Yeah. So what we're going to try and do is review what review's gone on tonight, and then on Saturday at 7 o'clock we're going to come live again and try and bring some of our experiences to you to sort of back up. It may not be the specific ones we've talked about, and probably what's going to happen is we'll end up going back through our footage and realise some really better examples. But we'll try and bring some footage to you, and not try to not try to sort of bring sort of 10 things to you, but some really good evidence of EMF and some experiences and some questions about it. And what we'd like from yourself is that put a bit of thought into times where maybe you've captured EMF, or you've had the K2 go off, or you've had equipment go off, and try and bring some experiences to you. And again, any of our team that are watching that you think, you've talked about your experiences, we've had some far better stuff happen. Let us know about them. And again, if you're available on Saturday, then come on and tell us about them. But if not, then let us know the stories. And if you've got any footage, we'll we're trying to sort of go through it really. But what we're going to try and do moving forward with these shows is rather than sit for 3 hours and bring loads of different things to you, try and bring subjects to you, try and one subject to you, talk about it, not to sort of teach and to let out, but really try and talk about what it is, how we measure, general experiences, and just sort of a bit of sort of fun with what we bring with it really. But again, if you've got a suggestion of what you want us to talk about, if there's anything that you would like us to run over, or
any questions,
great, yeah,
any questions you got, just put them forward and
definitely
we can answer them.
We're going to monitor these videos, so like I said, we're going to go back over and watch them. So if you're on YouTube, then try and put any questions in there, or any subject you'd like us to cover, or like I say, this show's we're only as good as you guys really. So I'm happy to sit about anything for an hour really, but it needs to be interesting. So we want to make sure that you got what you want to hear really. But yeah, share your experiences with us. If you've got a piece of footage, some evidence you want to send over, or we'll obviously give you credit for it. We're not going to claim it as our own. It's brilliant, and so we call it. But no, if you've got a piece of evidence that you've captured that you want to share, or type it up, send it on in, and we can talk about it. And then we'll go back through our archive. We've been there before. We'll see if we picked up any evidence of that. Like I said, it's great when we capture something, but actually when you guys have captured it as well, that for me is really good, really backing up what we've got. And again, I think our main aim with this, and we've been really open and honest here, we want to try and bring these shows to you as regular as possible, but also what we'd like to do is try and bring our events live to you. And we've really worked out that the best way for us to do that is going to be going live on YouTube. Now we can go live on YouTube in our own houses and confined from a laptop or a desktop. We can't do the field unless we get 1,000 followers. Our followers have jumped up, but we're nowhere near at the moment. So what we want to try and do is, if you're watching this and you like what you see, try and share the video for us. Try and go onto YouTube and like our videos, like our show, and follow the channel. And then once we get to 1,000 viewers, then along with the regular shows we'll be doing, we want to bring you live from location. Really, it's nothing better than having you. We've got the equipment ready. The only thing we haven't got really is the real good platform. We had live stream before, but they charge the earth, and we have to keep cutting off every 20 minutes. And we've gone with Facebook. Facebook can be a bit hit and miss with the audience, so YouTube's really what we'd like to do, and we can't do that without you really. So if there's a way that you can like the video, share the videos, and just sort of give a thumbs up, but also try and go to the other platforms and share us, then it'd be good to try and make as well as we can. So when we do open up, we'll hit you 1,000 followers, and the first venue we go from will be live from it as well, which would be amazing. Get back into that really, because like I said, we may come back to reduced numbers. We may come back to venues where you can't have everyone on at a time. So if you want to be involved in the comfort of your own living room with a nice cup of tea and in the warm, that's the perfect way to do it. And YouTube is our way really. So if there's a way that you can help us up our followers, that'd be most grateful. But apart from that, it's been good chatting, good talking ghosts, and good digging the ghost top out again. And it was iron in water. It's normally in a heap on the floor, where I've used it so many times in 1 month that it's dusty and dirty and just keeps on getting washed. So it's hanging in the wardrobe ready. I've said before, there must have been 50 emails from myself this week to venues, just checking out what sort of things they got in place when they're looking to welcome people back in. So yeah, there's lots of things going on. So we're looking to probably put some events on, hopefully the latter part of this year. Just try and get out really. But if we can't bring you, then it'd be great to bring you along on live. So, but I've talked way too much.
It's not like you, is it?
No.
Normally you don't.
I was just thinking that. I thought,
No.
Dan's talking a lot.
It's normally me, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, Lee hasn't got a word in edgeways.
I know, because he normally takes the limelight all the time. So
I know. Yeah.
Let him have his little.
It's a battle for me, isn't it?
It's 5 minutes of fame.
But no, it's been amazing chatting, and like I say, hopefully there's some bits that you've picked up from what we do, and hopefully people comment and let them know what they do. We're not aiming to be, like I say, the be on end of Ghost Hunt, and he's claiming to be the be on end of Ghost Hunt. I'm more humble than that, and you learn every day, and you go to the venue and you try different things. That's what keeps it fresh and keeps it exciting. So if there's any suggestions you've had, or if you disagree with what we've done or disagree with what we do, and you think you've got a better way, then let us know, because we're trying. You're wrong. No, I'm joking. No, we would sort of trial it out in venues, and any sort of techniques you use, then we'd want to hear. But It's been an hour. We said we're going to be on for the first hour on a Thursday. It's been great chatting to you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you if you're rewatching it.
Cheers, guys.
Go over to onto YouTube, like our channel, get us to follow it so we can get streaming from venues.
And thanks to everyone who kind of helped with all the kind of the technical stuff and let us know what was going on. Really appreciate that. And thanks Julie for jumping on the comments as well there. It was nice to see you. And
yeah, it's been good chatting with Julie.
everyone who's liked the video so far as well.
Perfect. Thanks ever so much, guys. We'll see you Saturday at 7 o'clock. Mary on still?
Yeah, I think so.
Yay!
Fan practice finished.
Go on, Mary.